Business means we welcome to the studio Yuka Roya, our business editor. Great to see you, as always, Yuka.
Hi, Mark.
Ukraine taking centre stage at the G7 in Evian, with Vladimir Zelensky in attendance. Donald Trump suggesting the US could put sanctions back onto Russian oil. Tell us more.
Well, Mark, those sanctions were paused in March as the war on Iran and a standoff over the Strait of Hormuz disrupted global energy supply. After talks with the Ukrainian president in Evian, Mr. Trump said Russia should make peace with Ukraine and that he'd do whatever he could to help, though he offered few details as to exactly how. He did, however, suggest the sanctions waiver could be cancelled swiftly now that a deal with Iran has been reached. Let's take a listen.
Soon we'll be able to do that because the oil is now flowing. So we took sanctions off because obviously we're not looking to impede the oil. So we're in a position to do that soon.
Now, Russia's been enjoying a windfall from the Iran war as it allowed it to sell its oil at higher prices. But at home, it's been grappling with a deepening fuel crisis.
Yeah, well, Ukraine has been ramping up its drone campaign targeting Russian energy infrastructure, and it's starting to have a serious impact on Russia's domestic energy market. One of the country's largest oil companies, Tatneft, has started rationing fuel at its petrol stations, and authorities have eased quality and environmental rules for refineries to mitigate the impact. Luke Traeger reports.
Far from its own territory, a Ukrainian drone slams into the Moscow region's largest oil refinery, demonstrating Kyiv's willingness and ability to target its adversaries' critical infrastructure. Already under Western sanctions, Russia is facing lengthy delays in being able to bring a major source of its war funding back online without easy access to components it can't easily produce. It's led to fuel shortages in recent weeks by disrupting supplies, both in Russia and the Ukrainian territories its forces occupy, already reeling from constant strikes on critical logistical routes, which has cut them off from resupply.
It's difficult. We've been in the queue for an hour and we still haven't reached the petrol station.
How can it be solved? Only if the special military operation ends. I fear there's no other way.
Zones like Crimea have already seen fuel rationing put into effect, but refiner Tatneft has also now introduced limits at its 800 petrol stations inside Russia itself. One energy research firm estimated last week that the world's third largest oil producer had lost around a third of its refining capacity to Ukrainian strikes. Russia allowed some of its refineries to produce domestic fuel with lower environmental standards to ease the crunch last year, measures it extended in May. And the country's seaborne oil exports fell 15% month-on-month in the first half of June, with petrol exports halted until the end of July and jet fuel shipments shut down until November. That'll likely hit Moscow in the pocketbook too, further eroding its ability to pay for its war.
The insight there from Luke Traeger as to what people in Russia are saying about the oil situation, which brings us to the question, how is the global oil market today, Yuka?
Well, crude oil prices continue to slide after a sharp fall on Monday. Both the North Sea Brent and the US WTI are now trading below $80 a barrel. That's down more than 25% compared to a month ago, Mark.
Well, here in France, the controversial Shein store that opened in the heart of Paris last November is already set to disappear.
Yeah, well, the BHV department store opposite the Paris City Hall has announced that it will end its partnership with the Chinese-born ultra-fashion retailer. Shein's Parisian debut was hugely controversial back in November, not least because it followed an uproar over the sale of childlike sex dolls on its online marketplace. Its arrival at BHV sparked an exodus of dozens of high-end brands from the iconic store, a move which was also in part linked to management issues and unpaid invoices. SGM, the group that has operated BHV since 2023, has now sold the store at a loss to a group of executives. Director Frédéric Merlin acknowledged it was a mistake to host Shein, and the new management says the brand will, quote, ideally leave the store by Christmas.
Let's take a look at the day's stock market action then.
Well, global stocks mostly rose earlier this Tuesday as oil prices slid further, but Wall Street indexes are currently diverging. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is rising for the fourth straight day, while the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq are pulling back after Monday's rally, with the Nasdaq currently off by about 0.7%.
And one notable outlier in the tech-heavy Nasdaq is SpaceX.
SpaceX indeed, while Elon Musk's space satellite and AI company rose as much as 16% in the first hour of trading this Tuesday. And although the rise has slowed down somewhat, it's still up 6% from Monday's close when the stock gained 20% in one day. The company has surpassed Amazon as the world's fifth biggest company in terms of market value, and earlier in the session briefly overtook Microsoft. It's now approaching $3 trillion in market cap. The world's three largest publicly traded firms, Nvidia, Alphabet, and Apple, are all worth over $4 trillion. Now, SpaceX has also sealed a deal to buy AI coding startup Cursor. It will be an all-stock transaction, with Elon Musk's firm paying $60 billion worth of SpaceX's stock to Anysphere that operates Cursor, which is an AI tool that can write computer codes by itself. Now, this as the company hopes to, of course, catch up with rivals like OpenAI and Anthropic. The acquisition plan was unveiled back in April, but was not formalized pending SpaceX's IPO last Friday.
It's all action, isn't it? Japan's central bank has raised interest rates to the highest level in more than 3 decades.
Yeah, the Bank of Japan raised its policy rate to 1%, a level not seen since 1995, as it turns the page on an era of deflationary spiral. Japan began cutting rates aggressively in the 1990s following the collapse of a real estate economic bubble. The central bank kept negative interest rates for years to encourage borrowing and spur growth, but inflation has been on the rise in recent years, fueled by the Middle Eastern energy crisis. Wholesale prices jumped more than 6% in May from a year earlier, the quickest pace in 3 years. Now, ordinary Japanese consumers showed mixed reactions to the decision. While it can help asset holders earn more in interest, it will, of course, make housing and other loans more expensive. And that's it from the business desk.
Yuka Roy, thank you. As always, great to see you. Yuka's back with more business in right about an hour's time. Thanks again.